Watch this. No way!
Hello and welcome back to the Cookie Jar Golf Podcast, Crumbs episode pilot Mark II.
Course Diaries.
Course Diaries.
Course Diaries, Thomas. Cookie Crumbs is something you've been trying to push for a long time. It's Course Diaries.
Yeah, the crumbs have to be something different, I suppose. But I am Tom Mills, for those of you who don't know, and I am joined by Sam Williams.
Greetings. How are we?
Yeah, good, mate. Can't complain. Another Course Diary under the belt.
Good fun, wasn't it? So we actually went and played Worcester Golf Country Club, a.k.a. Boughton Park, which is about 25 minutes from where we live.
Yeah.
Kind of one of those on your doorstep that you don't play. You don't go and see really, because when you do get in the car and play somewhere other than your home track, it's usually much further away. It was good fun. We played, I think, Painswick on the Monday and then did Worcester on the Wednesday. So it was kind of right in that spell of heat wave, hot weather. But yeah, it was cool, wasn't it? So
short socks.
Yeah,
shorts on water.
I mean, it was perfectly nice evening, wasn't it? I think to kick it off, we were looking for something to go and do on the Wednesday evening, and just thought, well, what about checking out Boughton Park? Old school MacKenzie, classic, kind of, as I mentioned, not somewhere where, I've not played there probably since I was 10 and won a very important junior competition.
What happened when you were 10?
Yeah, well, it's obviously won a junior event. Yeah, like £30 Twilight Green fee. I thought, well, it's got two chances, hasn't it?
And it was, as we had a little chat on the way down in the car, I'm almost certain it was my first MacKenzie.
Yeah.
I mean, I've read his books. I kind of know of the stuff he's done. And have I ever played a MacKenzie? I'd have racked my brains.
Well,
no, I don't think so.
No. And there's a few. I mean, there's a couple around the Midlands, particularly places like Warsaw would be another example. Obviously, there's a lot of his courses that he did in the early part of his career. But the stuff around Worcester is pretty interesting. In terms of a potted history, David Thomas, kind of big fan of the pod and friend of ours.
He listens to the pod.
Yeah,
Jury's out whether he's a big fan.
Yeah, true. Okay, rather than I speak for him, but actually very kindly, he's one of the game's very passionate souls who, just spends a lot of time trying to understand the history, doesn't he? And he kind of sent through a very brief potted history, which I think is worth covering. So Worcester Golf and Country used to have a 9-holer on Tolladine, which no longer exists. I've also played that as a junior.
Did you win an Open there?
No, I didn't actually. No. But yeah, late 1920s, moved to Boughton Park, and MacKenzie built the original routing. Now, for those that haven't played it, it's a course that's situated very, very close to the city centre of Worcester, which is really nice, isn't it? And it feels like a little piece of an oasis, I would say. And yeah, like you drive through the gates and down this kind of long road that takes you to the kind of manor house, the building, the clubhouse in the centre, and you've got the holes kind of branch out around it, don't they? Which I think is pretty unique.
Yeah, that drive in it's a fairly intimidating drive because you've got holes 1 and 2 either side of you, so you need to give your wits about you to make sure you're not being peppered by a golf ball.
Yeah, I noticed that the knowledgeable members had some good etiquette.
Yeah,
there.
we just drove straight through. Yeah, just no thought to anybody involved. We just cracked on straight through, but we weren't to know, I suppose. But it's
what were you going in expecting?
Augusta,
right?
I don't know. MacKenzie, infamous for Augusta, Cyprus. I mean, it's weird when you see some of another, friend of the pod, Joe McDonnell. You see when Masters comes around and you see how Augusta's changed since Simpson laid it out. It's like nothing. Almost, the bunkers are different shapes, they're in different places. They've changed a lot of the green complexes and things like that. So, what remains of MacKenzie, what you see on TV, isn't necessarily what he designed. And I suppose I was hoping a little bit of Augusta there, a little bit of Cyprus. But I was going in there fairly open-minded just to see, what it was about. And I think the big takeaway for me was certainly on the sort of, I think we'll get into it shortly. The course kind of changes feel about third of the way through, halfway through, kind of changes feel, which we'll talk about. But the front sort of six, the green complexes and the contours around the greens are fabulous. Yeah, they're
be a stretch to say it's
small
Augusta,
greens.
but they're the shades of it with kind of really nice high flash face bunkers, really cool mounding around the greens, particularly those kind of first 6 or 7 holes, and that kind of stretch of about sort of 15 in.
Yeah,
really nice feature. Like the green sides are amazing, aren't they? I thought they were really cool.
We had a chat. I'm not well versed enough to be able to just pull this knowledge from the top of my head, but it's a fairly flat terrain. The whole thing's flat, really. There's, after about 7 or 8, you go down into a separate part of the property. But the first 6, 7 holes are fairly flat, but have all got undulating, contoured greens. And I wondered, I should talk to you on the way around, whether how man-made they were and how they were, or whether they'd picked those sites because there was a bit of natural mound in there. But you just don't see mounding like that made anymore. To repel.
It's subtle, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's
and
really
just
subtle.
They give you angles into the green. And there are correct angles into the green and there are incorrect angles into the green, which have kind of been forced because of the tree growth. I'd guess there's been a lot of tree growth back in Mackenzie's day. There wasn't a huge amount of trees there.
We've got some black and white images. We'll post them up on the grid and stuff on Insta and Twitter. But you can. It looks amazing when you look at the black and white photos when there's literally no tree cover there. And I think that's the big takeaway with Worcester is we've talked a lot about this on the podcast. We've had people like Frank Pont, Ed Cartwright, Mike Clayton, all talking about entropy. So you come away from the links golf and it's like, well, yeah, these courses were not built with huge amounts of tree-lined fairways. They were generally quite open pieces of land. And over time, as tree growth comes in, you do lose the playing width and angles and all the kind of decisions you have to make. So, the sad part, I would say, with Worcester is that you really just have to step up and execute off the tee. Like, you've just got to keep threading it off the tee. You don't need to be bombing drives 300, but you've got to be hitting the middle of the fairways. Otherwise, you're coming out sideways. Whereas, actually, when you get to the greens, certainly those kind of original green sites that are there, they don't need to be defended by trees. No. Because the mouths are so narrow to the greens, the mounding around them is such, and the size of the greens is such that actually if you're coming at it from side on, you wouldn't be able to hold it even with an 8 or a 9
iron. The turf is firm as well. I mean, it's parkland golf, but it's...
We were playing in a heat wave.
We were playing in a heat wave. But it was proper turf. It wasn't like, it didn't matter if you were coming in from the wrong angle because you could just get it to rouse back. It wasn't playing like that.
Yeah.
You are right. We were playing it in a heat wave, but
I just thought that part was sad. So like you play one. I think one's a really nice opening hole. Yeah, fairly generous up the right, and you've got a lovely green to play into. 2 fabulous kind of shortish par 4 with kind of that kind of lone tree that sits behind it.
Yeah.
Beautiful green site again. Bunkers kind of drop forward 50 yards in front of you. Really makes you think. And you're thinking this is really good, like some really good holes. But then you start to get into it a little bit further out, and 3's a long par 5.
The third's a good example because it's a long par 5, which is so narrow now that I fortuitously hit, for me, a fairly large drive up the left, where on the tee we were saying you don't really want to be that left because it looks like there's sort of OB up there. But I threaded it down the left, pulled it a little bit to be fair. Now I could go over the trees towards this green. So I had about a 5 wood in, but it was like a Sunday best 5 wood. But I was looking over, so beyond the trees, and there was a bunker that's about, 20 yards short, sort of protecting from what I was trying to do. But you couldn't really see that bunker because it was covered in trees. So I had to go over the trees and over this sort of invisible bunker. And you kind of think, you could get rid of all those because the hard bit about this is the fact they've put a bunker that's kind of 20 yards short because you want to run it in.
Yeah.
It's not...
And the green site's kind of at angles to you. You play to a green that's then almost tucked around at right angles.
The whole kind of design to be played is the second shot sort of straight down the fairway and you just kind of chip in sideways and it's like an easy par 5.
And if you missed it kind of short-sided or you're on the side of the green, behind the bunker or in it, you really are going to be in trouble going up and down. And I think that was the beauty of the hole, but instead you just got an awful lot of tree growth up the right. And then the next is kind of another, so they play 2 back-to-back par 5s, again a fabulous green site on 4, but there's just so much tree cover. It's not a case of thinking about where you're coming in from. It's just like, please, God, keep this thing on the short stuff.
And which, you know, it kind of forces you to play more strategic golf. You know, that's why I think it's, you know, good players play parkland courses well, because they can put the ball where they want to put the ball, first of all. But you've got to think, like, you can't, you know, there's certain holes where you're like, I can't go down the right here, because if I go down the right here, there's no shot to the green. So I can probably go 3-wood down the left. It's going to be a longer shot in, but that makes more sense. And for average golfers like myself, it's just, I think heavily tree line courses are just too hard.
Well, it keeps it hard. So, funnily enough, Boughton Park's got I think the highest slope rating in the county. It is a difficult course for exactly the reason that, you know, you've got to keep it straight off the tee. Maybe with the equipment, yeah, I'll give it you. If you took a lot of that tree cover away, it would be an easier course to play for the majority of golfers.
And
but it would
wet.
be more nuanced, wouldn't it? Yeah, it'd be wet, perhaps. But
then the course kind of, you get through, we talked, you know, 3-4 back-to-back par 5s. You get through kind of 7. They're all great golf holes, and you get to 8, which is the first sort of indication that things are about to change, because now you play over a lake.
It's just kind of new land, isn't it?
Yeah,
when you
with
get
a big
past
water
8,
feature,
par 3.
which is a nice par 3, but it just feels different to the ones that came before it. 155, nice par 3. You get past 8, and then suddenly you're in like a different part of the world, and it's a very, very different feel to the golf course from there through to 15. It
feels like you've lost like some of that MacKenzie charm. So even though you're playing and it feels a little claustrophobic with the trees, there's lots of charm there in those first sort of, I'd say even the 8th. I mean, that par 3 over the water, that was an original, you know, it's a really good golf hole. You know, I've noticed they've started exploring some stuff with different sand types, whiter sand. They'd obviously redone the bunker on the front left, and that looked really good. But yeah, then you go 9, 10, you know, 11. You know, they start to just feel like you're in a slightly different stretch of the course.
I only think about it now, actually, in retrospect. Probably should have done some due diligence. 9, 10, elevated tee shots.
Yeah.
12, no. 13, elevated tee shot. 14, elevated tee shot. Like, it's almost like it's like the new age sort of thoughts. So like, let's go up there and hit down onto that.
I think they've changed the tee locations. What we do know for certain is that there was a massive clubhouse fire in 48. So I think a lot of records kind of pre that days, and obviously clubhouse fires were not uncommon in those days. So there's a little bit of kind of conjecture around some of this stuff. But the big thing is this kind of 30 years ago balls in gardens dispute. So because it's kind of in quite a large residential area, you've obviously got proximity to houses. That's obviously caused the golf club issues, which I think has forced some of those routing decisions. You know, again, that's a little bit of a shame. But I wouldn't say they're dreadful golf holes. They just feel different. You play 6 where this feels different to what I've played. But there is still some really good stuff. Like you play, I want to say it's 13 up the hill, the short par 4, and you get up there and there's like a lovely 3-tiered green.
Yeah.
You know, kind of 2 little trees either side. It just feels, there's lots of character there. I really enjoyed it. And do you know what? A special shout out. Everyone that we saw there said to us they'd recently made some changes with the head greenkeeper, and he's just working wonders. And we can kind of attest to that. Like, I actually thought the greens were really good.
Were great, yeah.
Greens were really good.
Quick.
I really enjoyed it. I would say at £30 Twilight to play some old school classic MacKenzie, like that's a good deal. And it's a bit of an education, because it's not somewhere you'd go and, you wouldn't say, hey, let's drive 2 hours to go and visit Boughton Park, but you'd absolutely cover it off if you was travelling through the Midlands just to go and see somewhere a little bit different.
Yeah, and Twilight's a relative term. The Twilight was after 2:30. I mean, for me, that's afternoon. You know what I mean? Like that's not, oh God, you're not going to fit around him, which Twilight sometimes is, you know. After 2:30 for 30 quid, I thought it was a good deal to be had there. And I think, you know, as we play more architect golf courses and these golden age wonders that we're trying to tackle, it's interesting to go to see some of these old designs and see how they've changed and how they play now. And I definitely felt like that I could feel, you know, some of the old golden age architecture principles there.
Yeah.
But you could tell they'd let it go.
It's
those
just
principles
entropy.
go.
Entropy's ultimately killed it because there's not much lengthening they can do, certainly on those holes. You know, we're kind of talking earlier about the Addington before we started recording, and that's a classic example. We played that last year, and you're like, yeah, there's a lot of trees. This is claustrophobic, and we haven't been down since they've done the tree clearing work there. But what you can see from the pictures is it's going to enormously improve playability, and it just really opens up some of these fabulous golf holes. And I genuinely think those are there at Worcester. It would be remiss on this pod not to talk about the match. So just kind of linking back to Course Diaries 1.0, Painswick, I lost from about 3 up with about 5 to play. That was pretty painful. I started at Worcester on an absolute birdie rampage. I think I birdied 3 out the first 5. I could have birdied all 5 of the first holes. I was on absolute fire at one point. I thought, this is...
Yeah,
we've got 59 watch on here.
I think I was level par through 5 and about 3 down, which is not ideal.
I was putting on a ball striking clinic for you.
Yeah, it was good. You were on fire. I can't quite
rolled another
recall
good
what
birdie on
happened in
an
the match.
8. Rolled a birdie in on 8. I remember that.
I do
and it
recall,
felt like a really... And then you lost your ball down 9, down the left. You didn't deserve to lose it, to be fair, because I hit an absolute rattlesnake hook again. Down 9. Somehow made a 4. We both made birdies on 11. On 10, rather. 11, halved in 3s. 12, we're going up there. I think I've snuck that one. So I'm feeling like I'm like 4 or 5 up at this point. And then you've gone on an absolute rampage. I've missed a short birdie putt on 4... Where are we now? 15.
I think we need to discuss 15. So 15.
14.
You play... We've talked, there's a lot of elevated tees on the back 9.
This is sunken.
And obviously, at some point, you've got to go uphill. The 14th tee is quite far below, and you play up to a fairway which is well above you. We knew there's a group in front. We happened to know one of the guys in the group in front, as happenstance would have it. And we watched them go over the hill. We don't know if there's a bell. We just wait for a bit and say,
sun setting. Yeah. We've got wives that are expecting us back about 3 hours ago.
So we thought, well, we're hit. It's the hole's 350. But I think for one of the only times in our life, we both absolutely smoke these drives.
Couldn't have got another inch out of those drives.
And you must have nearly killed the blokes on the green. Yeah,
because there was a bell, and it turns out we were about 20, 30 yards past that bell. But they were all good with that. Very kind. And that was bad.
There was only one birdie on that hole, though, wasn't there?
One birdie. And that's where the comeback began. I seem to remember I then 3-jabbed the following. You made a good tidy 4 or something on 16. I got short-sided on 17. And then, we bled out to a gentleman's half on 18. But... there was some good golf out there. That improves the enjoyment. Like, there's no getting away from it. Like, I actually hit the ball pretty good around Worcester, and I always think that improves things.
Yeah, I'm trying really hard to try and detach my golf from my opinions of golf courses, because my golf is so shit.
But anyone who says they can do that and is lying to themselves.
No, you can still appreciate stuff, though, can't you? You can still appreciate the golf courses. And I was getting my ass handed to me on that front 6, and that front 6 holes are really, they're a truly remarkable flat set of golf holes. Like, that sounds ridiculous, but for something that's so ostensibly flat and uninspiring, there's 6, 7 really, really good golf holes and great greens. And Blackwell, we often talk, the protection of the golf courses, the greens, they're small. On these Course Diaries, we've been to Painswick and to Worcester.
How small?
And they're probably half the size. They're tiny greens. And with the Worcester, you can see that certainly on that front 6, 7, they weren't designed to be any bigger because of the mounding. They sit in these sort of mounded areas. So they were always that size. Not like they've shrunk.
Yeah.
They're just tiny. But you want that from a reachable par 5. You want a small green, because it's asking you, can you hit a small green from 250 or... I just thought it was brilliant. It was really, really enjoyable experience to go and see a MacKenzie course.
I just think there's more that could be done there that would just elevate that course with the removal of some of the trees. I think I can't kind of stress that enough. I just think the enjoyment would be amplified if you weren't sweating over a 6-iron off the tee thinking I've got to hit an absolute laser here to either have a shot and a view at the green or to not put it in the cabbage
Well, like
off
I
the
said
tee.
earlier on, ironically, getting tree line golf courses only benefits good players. Like, it doesn't grow the game because it makes it harder for hackers to play golf.
It just slows it down, doesn't it? Favourite golf holes? Feels like an apt way to close this 20-minute podcast.
I think the second's a fabulous golf hole. I really thought second was a fabulous golf hole.
I was going to say.
You were going to say two.
Yeah.
Three's a good golf. It does need tree removal, but three's a really good golf hole. They're just. I mean, two is the standout one for me. I thought with that lone tree, you could genuinely be in Augusta. It's a fabulous looking golf hole.
Yeah, I would say playing those probably the first 8. They're all really good golf holes. You could almost from there slip across and play 9, 10, 11, play 12, and then play 15 in. I almost think that's the ideal stretch of holes.
Yeah.
I'd say 16 was a really solid golf hole as well.
Yeah,
16's
probably the one for me where you
too
look
much
at
trees,
it
but
and you
the
think
bones of it are really good.
Yeah, that was just like
we both had to chip out sideways, which
it was just. I think we paced that fairway as something like 14 yards wide from tree cover to tree cover. It's like, and you need to. I mean, you didn't need driver, but there's
another
bunker,
one kind of just in on the further up, isn't there? So you had to be on the left side of the 14 yard fairway.
And there's a bunker at like 220 you need to carry. So like you do need to hit a decent club, and you've got to slot it within like a 15-yard fairway.
It's 400 yards. You've got it at the left side of the fairway. We know the fairway's 14 yards in width. So the question is, can you hit 250 to 7 yards worth of fairway? There's not many players in the game that can do that reliably.
But then a great green.
But it's a fantastic golf hole.
Yeah, and a good golf hole.
Well, we're going to put some pictures up. I'll dig out some of the black and whites as well. But yeah, been interesting doing that. I don't know where we'll end up next, but
I got my sights
more
set.
course diaries to come.
I know where we're going. I got my sights set.
Okay, you going to give anything away?
It's in the Midlands.
Okay, Belle surprise.
We'll keep it a secret. We'll keep it up our sleeve.
Cool.
Keep your eyes and ears peeled. And until next time.
Adios.
Watch this.